What's up, lawn creeps? You made it back for part two. Hey, babe. Made it back for part two of the shed tour. So you are either stout of heart, bored, or you do really care about this stuff. So let's check the rest of this shed out real quick, and we'll go from there and get you back outside. I want to move past this wall. There's just a couple of things worth mentioning. An axe, a sharp axe. Everybody should have one to cut through some very tough roots when you're digging to try to plant something. You come across some crazy roots, or if you've got maybe an old stump in your yard somewhere where you're trying to work, got to have a good axe. Got to have a good pruning saw, super sharp to do some hand pruning. I mean, this sucker can make short work of some pretty large circumference limbs and stuff like that. That's cool. And on that note, but not pictured here, I do have, a lot of the tools I use, I'm not going to lie, full transparency, I've got a lot of stuff that is interchangeable between my dad and me. My dad, the original lawn creep, right? All of our dads, our grandfathers, they're the originals, man. We're just following in their footsteps. But he's got all of that stuff too. But worth mentioning is a pole saw, right? To get those limbs way up there, you got to have that long pole saw.
Some men are longer than others.
Your mother been telling you stories about me again, eh?
to work on that. Every shed should have one. I've got this little awesome weatherproof lawn book. I bought this a long time ago when I first kind of caught the bug, and before all of the internet gurus came out with their lawn tips and all of that. We all read, you read books. People read books to get their information. I've got a whole bunch of cool ones from a lot of different eras, and a couple of them from England. It's pretty interesting. I'm totally going to do a video on that. Stay tuned for that. Real quick though then is that I don't have a lot of irrigation stuff here anymore. There is one over here that I'm going to show you in a minute. Not a huge irrigator anymore. I don't do a lot of watering. Maybe one day before I hit that pine box and I hit the lottery, I'll get an in-ground sprinkler system or something. But until then, embrace the brown and embrace that dormancy when that time comes. Right here is a Black & Decker, I know, right? Don't laugh at me, but anyways, the point being is that it's a electric hedge trimmer. I opt for an electric hedge trimmer because it is not as loud and obnoxious as a gas one. Usually the reach is longer on the electric one, and they are way easier on your shoulders and your rotator cuffs and all of that stuff. So if you've got a gas hedge trimmer, man, ditch that thing and go with one of these. This is already old hat kind of. I'm sure they've got the lithium battery one and stuff like that, but if there's any power equipment that you want to go non-gas, it's going to be a hedge trimmer. Otherwise, I believe in gas for lawnmowers and hedge trimmers. I see dudes more and more as I'm driving through town with the battery operated lawnmower, and those are cool, man. They're silent. You could mow literally at like 6 a.m. It's kind of neat. But we'll obviously do a whole separate video on lawnmowers and stuff like that. I promise. I keep saying we're going to do all these videos, and we are, man. Stick with me forever. Lawn Creeps forever. We're going to do billions of videos. So, moving on. Soaker hose. I don't know. Nothing else real breakthrough here. So, let's kind of finally move on and talk about this igloo cooler. Just kidding. Let's finally move on and talk about the drop spreader, the broadcast spreader, some stuff over here. First and foremost, though, let's talk about this bad boy right here. It's called a Rototiller. Every good gardener needs a Rototiller. More specifically, a nice small garden bed type of Rototiller, which is exactly what this is. And this is by a company called Mantis, which was the first company to come out with these type of lightweight, small, maneuverable, and very garden-friendly Rototiller. So it is kind of an indispensable tool. And this particular one is an absolute beast. Some of the people that swear by Echo or Steel or maybe Husqvarna, they might get turned off by the simple looking handlebar. But that I think is very cool. And that means nothing because this thing is an absolute beast and everything else is a copy as far as I'm concerned. This thing has never let me down. Even when not being completely meticulous about the winterizing, the shutdown of this. The following spring, I put that choke on, pull it, starts right up, ready to go. It's a workhorse. This thing is a great gardening partner. I even put the wrong gas oil mix in it one year and just kind of rode it out, and it never stuttered. So definitely check this company out. They are very cool. They are gardening people through and through. Like I say, they were the first to do these small type of rototillers. So definitely, if you're looking at something like this, look at this company. And they also got into the compost bin game recently. Look at kind of a prized possession of mine. This is a vintage Scott's drop spreader, all metal construction with this amazing paint job. I mean, look at that wheel and hubcap. That's pretty darn awesome. Embossed on the wheel, it even says Scott's, Marysville, Ohio. Inside the hopper, there's this badge as well that you see on a lot of vintage equipment. It's got some simple instructions, and you see it says OM Scott & Son. So kind of a flashback to yesteryear when Scott's was kind of a smaller company and kind of an innovator. You know, there's no secret as to why they kind of became a huge corporation. They were sort of on the forefront of that stuff, obviously. If I had to peg a year on this, I'm saying early 60s. It could be somewhere in the late 50s or something. But yeah, very cool. I don't recommend a drop spreader for fertilizer or grass seed necessarily. However, they do come in handy for your property line. I do use this to kind of go down my property line in my front yard and my side, yard, and get that nice clean straight line right along my property. So with both fertilizer and grass seed, I plan on showing my yard in some garden walks in the next couple years. And when I'm putting the finishing touches on some stuff for that, I might put a piece of plywood in the bottom of this hopper and put some potting soil in there and get some nice flowers and have it be kind of a conversation piece sort of planter with maybe some sweet potato vine coming out of the sides and some other nice annuals that'll pop out of that thing. So just something to think about, man, when you're out there and you're looking at garage sales. Well, you always want to look for cool stuff like this. And on the extreme contrary, how times have changed. You look at the Scott's Turf Builder broadcast spreader, which is pretty much the broadcast spreader that I'm sure 99.9% of you out there have as a typical homeowner, because these things are just leaps and bounds cheaper than anything that is even remotely commercial. These are all readily available at all of the beloved big box stores. Now, pardon the awful condition of this. It's flimsy, it's plastic. This little lever kind of messes up a lot. Of course, if I took better care of it, that might be one thing. But there's just, I hold this thing in no regard. I definitely do want to get a big boy broadcast spreader soon. Companies that I have my eye on for that are Brinley, Brinley. They look like they make an awesome type of broadcast spreader, commercial, but their entry-level one is pretty affordable, along the same price as most other spreaders. I know a lot of people are fond of the Earthway spreader, but this Brinley one is very nice too. Obviously, I'm looking at air-filled pneumatic tires, a nice mechanism, covered gearbox, nice material, metal, stuff like that. So good, good construction. Brinley people, if you're watching this, send me your $150 50-pound spreader, and I will do a full-on review and give it high marks. There's an interesting one by a company called AM Leonard. Now, if you're a garden geek, you know AM Leonard. They make awesome gardening tools and stuff like that, and they carry other brand stuff on their website. If you're a gardener, you can get lost in the AM Leonard catalog or online. So that's AM, the initials, and then Leonard. So check them out. They make an interesting kind of in-between commercial and homeowner type spreader, as well as some heavy-duty, big old commercial spreaders. I mean, you can get, just like anything else, you can go as wild as you want with spreaders, and you can spend $300 for like a mega one with the thing and whatever. But I just want one that's not this hunk o' junk. By all means, this works, man. This has got me where it's where I had to go. But I've become not that big a fan of Scott's because it's just kind of a big old corporation now, and maybe it's just the punk rocker in me. But once something gets too big for its britches, I'm kind of over it. But anywho, it is cheap. They are readily available, and you definitely have to have a broadcast spreader for fertilizer and for grass seed. So, you know what, kids? We are going to go ahead and do this into a 3-part mega series. The Lord of the Shed trilogy is now a thing. So congratulations, you are now part of the Fellowship of the Shed. So there's kind of a lot more that I want to say about the last few tidbits, the meat and potatoes of this shed. Obviously, my mower, my blower, my trimmer. There's obviously a couple of key points to talk about in this section, and I don't want to just chintz out and try to cram that into 2 parts. So we'll go ahead and do the third, and we'll make a little event out of it, and it'll be the Lord of the Shed trilogy. So stick with me. Thanks for coming with me on this journey thus far. However, real quick, I do still want to utilize this second one for one little tidbit here, which is the obvious embellishments and little knick-knacky things around this shed. Well, real quick then, without getting too long-winded on this, I'll just give you a quick little snapshot. I got a couple of pictures hanging here. That's Frank Frazetta's Death Dealer. Frank Frazetta is one of the greatest fantasy artists of all time. Check his stuff out. There is Eric Powell. He's a cool artist, a comic book artist, whatever. I used to be heavily into him. Every shed needs a Johnny Cash poster. So get yourself one. Actually, every shed should really have a Woody Guthrie poster. And if you know what I'm talking about there, then you know what I'm talking about. I got to get one of those in here. I just threw this up here, right? Night of the Living Dead. I've had that thing well over 20 years. That was in my old apartment. It just kind of made its way here. So, I mean, it's not like I kind of sit up at night and think of how I'm going to embellish my shed. All of this stuff is just kind of spur of the moment, knick-knacky. It's final resting place for a lot of this stuff. You saw this in the beginning of the show, so this is not for the faint of heart. This is horrific and totally awesome. I've had it forever. It is by an amazing artist I know by the name of Dean Hacker. It's crow feathers and some Sculpey clay, and it kind of protects my shed here, or kind of haunts it, one of the two. So I obviously showed you the pictures of my grandfather. That's awesome. What else is in here worth mentioning? How about the box up here from the Miracle Grass Shear? Very cool vintage box. Unfortunately, it fell apart, so I went ahead and hung it up. And here are the actual grass shears. These things are gnarly, old, vintage, antique, really. And they work awesome. I still actually use these for my edges. You can get an amazing edge on your beds with a pair of grass shears, especially when they're these old rustic things. Old tools are better. They are awesome. They have souls in them. They have stories in them. Highly recommend getting old cool tools like this, man, whether you're for decoration or for use. It's all kind of just like spur of the moment, sort of off the cuff stuff. Maybe once I think of it, I kind of spend a couple minutes on it, you know, and it makes it fun. It makes it fun. It's just kind of a nice artistic touch. I realize that's not for everybody, but I definitely always have and always will be that guy.
Give me a one-way ticket. Give me the one-way fare. Give me a one-way ticket. Oh yeah, get me out of here. Quit my job, sold my car. I took some money from the job. Got my pay and went on down. I booked the next flight out of town. Don't wanna stay another night. Don't have the time to say goodbye.
Thanks for sticking with me on this journey thus far. Let's do one more of these things, wrap this up, and we will get you back outside, hopefully somewhat inspired maybe on your own shed and what you've got in that thing, and entertained at the very least. So stay tuned, lawn creeps.
This piece of land that I stand on is my battlefield and home. My plow and my hoe is my gun.